Now, we did the Demko free reigns the other day. I don't know, was it the other week, the other month? Or maybe I'm still working on that video and I finished this one first. The idea was to make it one really long video. But seeing as I'm releasing a sharpening system epic, or I just did, remember that one, with the audio problems, yeah, everybody remembers that, except for the people who didn't have the problem. Since that sharpening epic came along, I feel the need to split these up. I like making shorter videos for people to digest. I don't like making the long ones. But let me clarify the word epic, while we're at it. You have the modern usage of the word epic, which means like everything. Epic smoothie, that was an epic walk to work. Shower was epic, I just took an epic dump. Then there's a classical epic, which is a cast of thousands, 3 hours long, costume changes. So I guess my epic sharpening video was more like the second usage, the classical usage, but only specifically the length part. Cast of 1, 0 costume changes, just my only shirt without holes in it, but with pit stains, sweaty hair. So this video here is the Demko AD-20.5. One of my minor works, just your quick look style video, which is a surprise. We were at the dimensions segment already. Snuck up on you, didn't it? Snuck up on me too as I was reading the sentence. The prose is just flowing through me like a can of Schlitz. Haven't had a Schlitz in a while. That's like number 4 of the stereotypical internet article. Successful people do all these 6 things. 4 is no Schlitz. Last place I remember having it was, I think, the Outer Banks. I got a 12-pack out there. It was good times. Where I'm at now, this here is no Schlitz country. These here are made in Taiwan, but the premium versions with a nicer pivot than the one I reviewed a couple years ago. These are offered in premium steels like S35 VN now. I think they call these the larger style pivots, the large bore pivot versions. Now, if you're keeping track, you have the made in USA full-size AD-20, known as the machine grounds, or hand grounds if you can find them, the MGs or the HGs. Then you have the AD-20 compact, a thinner, also made in USA variant. Those are machine ground, I think. I'm sure there's hand grounds too. And then the AD-20.5s, which is the smallest of the 3. Now, these are made in Taiwan only. And there's the regular pivot and there's the large pivot one. So the AD-20.5 is a smaller everyday carry and much less expensive version of the full-size AD-20s and the AD-20 compacts. Demko is a tiny production company, and as the scale of things go, it is hard to meet demand of the knife community if you have a popular knife. You have your shop ones, and then you have your production ones that you have to send out to a larger company that has a manufacturing capability. Now, the production AD-20.5s are an attempt for a small company like Demko to meet the demand of the fans at a lower price point and a greater availability. The AD-20.5s here are the fancier production offerings of the AD-20.5s. The one I reviewed a few years ago was the initial offering of it, and that was made out of Grivery. That handle was a Grivery handle, or FRN. Now, my personal opinions on Grivery or FRN, the typical knife guy is kind of over that material. It is an extremely hard to break polymer. There's nothing wrong with it. I've never had a single issue with it, never broken a Spyderco or taken a chunk out of it. But it is a style of plastic, and knife guys are like, I don't like plastic. And some initial criticism was just of the offering of the material. Not everyone likes it, okay? There's not really a logic to it. It's not like it broke on them. They just didn't like it, okay? And they're done answering your dumb questions about why they don't. But now we have a premium version. They made the pivot look nice and pretty. It's flush. And the logo, it's recessed. Now we have a carbon fiber or some flavor of G10. But in my hand here, we have the carbon fiber shark's foot and the drop point in natural, or what you would call jade G10. But you can also still buy the AUS 10A version, So I guess all the on-paper criticisms have been addressed. What about the price? Anyway, the AD-20.5 is a wonderful knife. I know some people are price conscious these days, so as a guy who is designing a knife, I am using designing in a very loose sense. I have my own thing coming, and that's probably going to be a one-off thing because I've been working on this for 2 years, and the emails, there's a lot of emails. Now, I have no idea how small knife makers exist. I have a full-time non-knife job. Imagine if I had to pay a staff or had to prototype, had a machine shop of expensive equipment, getting new equipment in, and you run 3,000 knives, you run 300. If you're a small company, you can only run small quantities. But if you're, getting it made by somebody else, you have to have minimum order quantities. So you got to figure out, is stock going to sit around? You've already paid for those knives because you have to pre-order them and you have to pay for them up front, and then you sit on the stock for years sometimes, or months if your knife is popular. So my take on any knives is you don't have to buy them if you don't like the price. There are a lot of reasons why different knives cost different prices, and you got to give smaller companies a little more leeway because sometimes there's things built into that price that the typical knife guy don't understand. Boutique knife makers sitting in their ivory towers. I just don't think they're getting rich, haven't gone through the process and dealt with MOQs and invoices for OEM work. It's easy for us to complain if we don't have skin in the game. But looking at the prices here and seeing what the other larger makers are charging for knives that are competitors, look at Spyderco Para Military 2s right now. You're like, those are made in USA. Well, are Spyderco's made in Taiwan knives any cheaper? Huh? Are they? I like the Demko Shark's Foot blade. It's has more of a belly than a standard straight edge sheep's foot. Although I always prefer a drop point. You know that. Or actually, this is called a clip point. This isn't a drop point. There's sometimes a fine line between a clip point and a drop point. Both were extremely sharp out of the box, as you would expect them to be. But fans of this knife are here for the shark lock. That's the thing. It's thin in the pocket and the shark lock. The shark lock is one of the most fidgetable styles of locks. I went over this in the original video, but it's fun, like a compression lock on a Spyderco or a button lock. On this knife, you can flick from the vent, or do we call it a port, pass through a window, or you can use the thumb studs, like that, or you can hold back the lock and pop it. Now, to release a shark lock, all you do is pull back on it, and it falls down. But the shark lock, when you flick it, it has a solid click, and I love it. It just has a nice sound to it. You could have bought a nice gun for that. Crowd would really appreciate the sound of the lock on this knife. They want 50 guns, and they want one cheap ass knife or 50 cheap ass knives. They don't want to spend money on their knife, okay? They only spend money on their guns. I hope you guys understand that by now. These guys prefer to shoot open their Amazon boxes. Watch out, my face cream just got hair. Gotta open the package. All right, there is jimping on the shark lock here. Andrew was a fan of texture, a fan of jimping, and at Cold Steel, you remember that, and this knife is no exception. There's going to be jimping on the lock, and the pocket clip is probably going to be a nice solid. It's going to stay in there in your pocket. You could always do a little bendy on the clip there if you don't like the tension of this knife. I don't think it's too bad, though. It's not quite like a Cold Steel, but this video is supposed to be short. You do get a right or left oriented pocket clip in a tip-up configuration. The handle material here is G10, JG10 on this one. You're going to have a little bit thicker of a diamond texture on here, so it could fray your fine wool slacks long term if you aren't careful. You go with the carbon fiber if you don't like that. Comparisons, the knives together, that makes sense, right? The two we're reviewing here. I already showed them a bunch, so let's move on to the Paramilitary 2. If you're familiar with the channel lore, this used to be the Blurple, but someone sold me a Lynch clip, and Flytanium sent me their aftermarket scales to throw on there and do a video about, so I did it, and now it looks like this. An all-time classic. These used to be about 120, 140, but now they run anywhere from 160, and the sky's the limit. The current price of the Blurple will set you back about $236 at Blade HQ right now. I know, times have changed. I think the Blurple used to be $140. Now the Surge Rager, also a wonderfully fidgetable knife. This one would cost you about $150, $160. These were being released in a very limited quantity on his site. Don't know if he's dropping any more handle variants or they're all gone forever. They were really wonderful, though. Check out that video. How about something reasonable? The Espada XL. You knew I was going to do this. Something little and cute. Okay, how about the Demko Solstice from Ocaso? It's designed by Andrew Demko. Remember, Ocaso was started by another former Cold Steel guy, not a Demko, but Rick Valdez. I just called the Espada XL, because of the joke, I can't call this reasonable, but this is definitely a reasonable knife. More reasonable Demkos we see too here. We have any other Spydercos? Oh, yep. How about the Tenacious? This one with the custom Cerakote paint job by a fan of the channel. That's it. We're done. Thanks to Demko for sending these for review. They came in the free reign box. Gonna do some Demko giveaways soon, just as soon as I get around to it. Summer, maybe end of August I'm gonna start doing. I gotta do Ocaso, I gotta do Demkos, and I feel like there was another thing I had to do a giveaway on. I think still a Jack Wolf. I owe the viewers a Jack Wolf giveaway. I'm going to do that too eventually. The AD-20.5 though is a new classic. The overall look, it has that special lock. There's strong aftermarket support for them, like Flightanium stuff if you want to swap scales. I don't have to tell most people that. The AD-20.5 is amazing. Say hi to the patrons. You know this is the new and updated patron list, you know? They help pay for my RAID drive for my video content. Anyway, like, subscribe, comment. Thanks for watching.